I now want to prove to you that your mind is super flexible. It is so easily programmed. I mean, I can't even work my television remote, and I can teach you how to change the filter in your brain. And your brain right now is trying its best to change in real time to help you. And I'm going to prove that to you too. And I'm also going to give you an example of just how flexible your mind is, how quickly you can change it. And when you start to realize, holy cow, Mel's right. My mind is easier to program than a television remote. Holy cow, I never even realized this. Just you buckle up and wait, because your mind has been dying for you to learn what you're about to learn. So let's prove to you that your mind is at the ready to change to help you, okay? And I'm going to give you an example that I am sure you have experienced in your life before. And here's the example. Buying a new car. Have you ever had an experience where you either were looking or shopping for a new car, or you were in your family, somebody was, right? Or you became interested in a new car. They're releasing this brand new Bronco, okay? And now you're super interested in it. I am personally in this boat right now. I drive a 9-year-old car, 2014. I love this car, but it's time. It seems like the engine light is on every other week, and every time I take it to get fixed, it's like a $500 bill. And so the thing is paid off, but I'm like, 9 years, maybe it's time. It's getting to the point. I love my car, but maybe I should get a new car. And the truth is, I'm not really a car person. I don't really give a shit about cars. I just want the car to be comfortable. I want it to work. I want it to be reliable. I want the seats to have heaters in them and the steering wheel to be a seat heater thingy. I always mix those words up, but that's kind of what I care about. So I don't really think about cars. But you want to know what? The second I started truly considering, maybe it's time to get a new car. Do you know what I saw everywhere? I'm like, holy cow. There are a lot of cars in this tiny town in southern Vermont that I live in. Cars are everywhere. And then as I started to hone in on the new Bronco, does everybody and their mother drive the new Bronco? It's like it's the only car on the road. The 2-door, the 4-door, the soft top, the hard top, the gray one, the red one, the green one. Like they're everywhere. Now here's the thing. A couple months ago, when I was happily driving my 9-year-old car before the brake light has been on consistently for 3 months, a few months ago, I had never seen a Bronco up here in southern Vermont. The only Bronco that I had ever seen was the one that my brother bought a year ago, and he lives in Chicago. But now that I'm interested in Broncos, I see them everywhere. And the second that I got excited about that sort of silvery blue one with the soft top, I couldn't believe it. Jessie, who runs video production for us, her husband drives one. I didn't even notice that they had a Bronco. And now everybody has not only a Bronco, but that color. And I want you to think about a time that this has happened to you, where you started to get interested in something. And then it's like, whammo, overnight, you see it everywhere. Maybe it was a handbag that you were really interested in, or a certain style of shoe or sneaker. You know, the new Converse ones with the really like inch tall sole on them. All of a sudden those things were everywhere. Or the Birkenstocks, the Birkenstocks that have the covered toe. It's like those were popular 30 years ago. And now every single college student and 20-something is wearing them. Bangs. The second I wanted curtain bangs, it's like, does everybody have curtain bangs suddenly? Everybody that I now see has curtain bangs. Never even noticed them before. Or you hear a song and you tune in, you're like, oh, I love that song. That song is so cool. And suddenly you hear the song playing in every restaurant. Maybe you haven't shopped for a car, but I bet when you were looking at colleges, it's like, wait a minute. Does everybody have a Michigan sweatshirt? Does everybody's parents go there? Is there a sticker that says University of Michigan on every car? Is it just me, or is that the only college in town? It's the same thing if you want to have a baby. As soon as you are trying to get pregnant, you know what happens? You see kids and pregnant women everywhere. It's like there were only adults on the planet and people that weren't pregnant, and then you want a baby, and boom, it's in your face. Or how about this one? You want to fall in love. What do you see? You see couples in love. It's so annoying. It happens instantaneously. You know what that is? That phenomenon where all of a sudden overnight, you see something everywhere. That is your mind changing in real time. That is a filter in your brain paying attention to what it thinks you are excited about or interested in. And it's changing what it's showing you in the world around you. And here's the crazy thing about your mind. And this is why this science is so exciting when you understand it. Oh my God. Here's the crazy part. You ready? The Broncos, the Bangs, the Birkenstocks, the babies, they were always there, all around you. You just didn't notice them. You want to know why? Because they were not important to you. The fact that you suddenly see those things everywhere, that is an example, and it is proof that your brain wiring is changing in real time, and your mind is trying to help you. Your mind is showing you the Broncos that have always been there. It's like it's highlighting it with a highlighter. Why? Because it became important to you. Why would your mind let you see things sometimes, but not others? Why are you suddenly seeing the covered toe Birkenstocks now, but you didn't see them for the last 5 years? That's a great question. And this brings us to the topic of the filter in your mind. Oh, I'm so excited for you to learn this. So there is a filter in your mind. It is called the reticular activating system. The reticular activating system. I'm going to call this the RAS, okay? Here's the visual, because you know your friend Mel loves visuals and metaphors to make this stuff easy. I want you to imagine that there is a hairnet over your brain. This hairnet is a live network of neurons, and it is constantly changing in real time. And this RAS, this network of neuron hairnet that sits over your brain as a filter, it has one job, a very important job, mind you. The RAS has to determine in real time, I'm talking nanoseconds, what information it should allow into your conscious mind for you to see and register, and what information it will block out from your conscious mind. Another way that you can think about the RAS is think about it like a bouncer in your brain. And the reason why you need a bouncer is because life is sort of like a very popular nightclub. Everybody wants to get in. And because there's so much and so many people and so many things showing up at a very popular nightclub trying to jam their way in the door, you need a bouncer who is deciding who gets in and who has to stand in that long line, freezing their ass off in an outfit that is not appropriate for winter, trying to get in, okay? So let's go back to the example of the car and the purses and the babies and the University of Michigan stickers that you suddenly see everywhere. The truth is, all that stuff, all the cars on the road, all the handbags people have, the hairstyles, it was already there. It was already in your subconscious. You, quote, saw it, but the RAS didn't allow you to register it. It shoved it right in that line. It did not let it into your conscious mind. The RAS is the bouncer. It determines what is it that is important enough to Mel Robbins that we are going to let it right in and have her think about it. Holy shit, there's another Bronco. I'm not getting the blue-gray color now because that's like the third one I've seen today. In fact, I don't even know that if I want a Bronco anymore. And I don't think I want bangs anymore either because it looks like every single person that I meet has bangs. This is how the bouncer in your mind works. It literally has a guest list, and you're the one that writes the guest list out. What is on the guest list of your mind? Anything that is important to you. Okay? All the other yahoos that are not on the list, all the other colleges that are on stickers on every other card, Dartmouth, Harvard, Brown, University of Wittenberg, not even noticing those. Why? Because you're thinking about University of Michigan. So all those other college stickers, they're waiting in line. They're not getting in. That bouncer won't let them in. But boom, there's a University of Michigan. Short skirt. Come on, you're going in. That's how it works. And so this is super, super important, and it's really exciting, okay? It's really exciting because when you understand that there's this electric hairnet on your brain called the RAS that works like a bouncer at a popular nightclub, we can tell that bouncer what you want, who you want to let in. It's that simple. And there's another important reason for the RAS and why you need a bouncer, okay? And the reason is information overload. It's just impossible for the human brain to consciously process all the data that is coming in through all five senses. If you just take a second and look around, and if you're driving a car, please do not take your eyes off the road. But look around wherever you are right now. There is so much stuff all around you, whether it's 50 license plates on the road ahead, every single make and model of the car, road signs as you're passing, the speedometer, the music input coming in, feeling your rear end on the seat, the air blowing out of the vents, all that happening in a car. The perfume somebody's wearing, all that stuff is information coming into your brain. If you're sitting at a home office or you're sitting at home, think about all the books. I'm looking up at our production calendar. There's all these bazillion Post-it notes, and I've got Jesse standing right there, and I've got 6 chairs and my purse, and there's a kitchen towel that I just noticed on the floor of our office, just laying there. I must have carried it up, just a dish towel laying there in the office. Now I'm focused on it because I put my attention on it. But your RAS cannot allow you to consciously process absolutely everything you can hear, smell, feel, taste. What's the other one? Smell, taste, touch. Can't do it. Your head would explode. And so your RAS, this bouncer with the list of what's important to you, it has to decide every nanosecond of every day what it's going to let in and what it's going to block out. And so this is important because the way that it programs what comes into your conscious mind is based on what it thinks is important to you. That's it. What it thinks is important to you. And here is where the life-changing opportunity is for you and me and everybody that you know. When you get intentional about purposefully telling this bouncer what you want to see, whether it's Broncos or it's a certain handbag, or heck, now it's the University of Colorado. That bouncer will change up the list. The RAS reprograms itself in real time. It changes the filter. This is a live network in your brain. It changes in real time to help you see those things that are important to you. That's what you're experiencing when you suddenly see the car that you're interested in all over the road. And today, you're going to learn how to use that scientific neurological fact to your advantage, because you're going to give yourself a mindset reset. So let me recap what we've learned so far, because it's a lot. Number 1, your mindset is like a pair of sunglasses. It filters the way you see yourself, the world, your future, absolutely everything. Your mindset triggers whether or not you take action or you don't take action at all. The second thing that you've learned is that when you change the lens through which you view the world from something pessimistic and darker to a worldview that is more rosy and action-oriented, it's going to lead to a happier and more action-oriented life. And this is according to both research and common sense. Third, you've now learned that there is this filter in your brain, this super cool thing called the reticular activating system. It changes in real time. It is flexible. It is alive. It is a network of neurons acting like a bouncer, keeping people out of your mind, letting some things in. And right now, it's only acting based on what it thinks is important to you. And fourth, you have learned that when you get serious and intentional about what you want to see, whether it's babies or Broncos or it's bangs, this filter in your brain will change in real time to help you achieve it. Period. Full stop. This is science. Now, we're going to take a second and hear a quick word from our sponsors. But when you come back to me, I'm going to explain how your mindset is connected to that filter in your brain. And I have a super simple, really cool little tool that you're going to start using today to put this science around your filter to work. And your brain, it is going to start working for you. We'll be right back. Whew. Okay. So let me just set the table again. I like to do that because when I listen to podcasts and I hear all the ads, I completely forget what we've talked about by the time I get back to the show. So we've been talking about your mindset, and we've also started to scratch the surface at this thing called the reticular activating system. This is that live filter in your brain that is flexible and capable of changing in a nanosecond to help you. So now I want to go a layer deeper, and I want to start to apply this flexibility in your filter to changing your mindset. So let's start with this question from a listener named Peter.
Hey, this is Peter from Washington. I was just wondering, how do I get past my doubts and maintain a positive mindset? Thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Peter. So I want to focus on one aspect of your question, and that is where you said getting past your doubts. This is where the science gets really interesting because your belief about yourself is a mindset. I'm going to say that again. Your belief about yourself filters how you see the world. And I'm going to give you an example. You use the word, Peter, self-doubt. If you have a lot of self-doubt, you question yourself, you criticize yourself, you hold yourself back, what color do you think the lenses on your sunglasses are? I'm not trying to be silly here. I'm trying to make this intellectual topic very tangible and understandable. If you have a lot of self-doubt, what is the color of the lenses on the sunglasses? Because this is where the filter in your brain starts to become programmed by your mindset. Now, I said earlier that your filter focuses on showing you what it thinks is important to you. How does it know what's important to you? I'll tell you. I said earlier that the RAS, that filter, its sole job is showing you what it thinks is important to you. So it begs the question, right, Peter? If you haven't been intentional, at least you didn't think you were, about telling the filter what to show you, how the hell does it know what to show you? Well, it shows you whatever you spend your time, energy, thoughts, and attention focused on. So, going back to your question about self-doubt, if you doubt yourself, right, you put a lot of energy into doubting yourself. It's not just one thought. You probably do it all day long. Your thoughts are critical, you hesitate, you don't speak up, you hold yourself back. All of that is energy that makes your RAS think that doubting yourself is important. If you doubt yourself and you go into work, you know what happens to you at work? You don't see the 15 things that you do right. You know what you obsess over? The one thing you've done wrong. That one email that you sent that was a screw up, that one customer that you didn't quite do a good job with, the one thing you've done wrong is all that you can focus on. Well, when you start to doubt yourself, this is where the RAS starts to make it worse. Because your RAS sees you spending so much energy and mental fuel in criticizing, doubting, and hesitating. And so your RAS thinks, oh my gosh, ding, 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 Peter thinks it's important for him to see what's wrong. And so your RAS blocks the 15 things that you did right. You know what you did today, Peter? You sent 32 emails. Great job. You didn't see it, though. You did a great job with those 5 customers. You're not giving yourself credit, though. You were amazing in that meeting earlier. Not getting credit for that either. But the one email, that bouncer's like, come to the front of the line. I'll take the email that is negative with the short skirt, and that email is getting in. Just like a dark pair of sunglasses shades everything. When you doubt yourself, it shades your mindset toward self-doubt. And then your brain gets involved. When the email from your boss comes in, hey, can you stop by my office before you leave today? How do you think Peter's RAS interprets that email if he doubts himself? I'll tell you how. When he reads, "Can you stop by my office before you leave today?" his RAS goes, "Oh, shit." Because you've trained it to look for things that aren't right. By putting so much time and energy into focusing on your self-doubt, you are also training the filter in your brain to filter out everything that's going right and to focus only on the one thing that's going wrong, thereby magnifying the self-doubt. Let's go back to an earlier example. Remember that pessimistic friend sitting on the beach that's bitching that lunch hasn't come? Or that pessimistic relative that is bitching about the family member that's halfway across the tent? It's all they see. They can't even see the beautiful water or the happy couple or anything else good. Why? Because their pessimism is what has programmed their reticular activating system. This is how mindset and the filter in your brain get linked. They become fused together. All you see is the reasons you should doubt yourself. It's how you feel. So first it starts with a mindset. You're thinking negative thoughts, and then your filter gets involved. And next thing you know, you're just seeing more and more and more and more reasons to doubt yourself. And here's something that you may be thinking right now. Why is my brain doing this to me? Why is my brain against me? Your brain is not working against you. It's just responding to where your mindset and all your energy is going. That's it. It follows your energy and your focus. And this is the good news, okay? If you get intentional about searching for reasons to feel proud, or for the small wins, the 15, 32 emails that you sent, the good things that you did, the places where you're showing up, your mind will spin like a top. And all of a sudden, just like you saw Broncos and babies and Birkenstocks, instead of seeing the one thing that you did wrong, you will see the 15 things that you did right. This is not a joke. It's hard science. This also, by the way, ties right back into the endless science about the power of a gratitude practice. A gratitude practice is a way to train your mind. A gratitude practice is teaching the RAS that being grateful and taking times to savor beautiful moments and focusing on things that you're really proud of and you appreciate, that's important to you, so you see more of it. That's how this all works, hand in hand. And I want to give you one more example, okay? Because I think this is challenging at times to see in ourselves because we're so used to seeing the world through a certain lens that we don't even realize we're wearing sunglasses. But it is kind of easy to spot in other people. So here's one more example about how your own beliefs and mindset about yourself or a situation that you're in can become paralyzing because the filter in your brain keeps the mindset in place, okay? So think about somebody that you love who's single and they are desperate to meet the right person. And the longer they stay single, the more and more insecure they get by the day. And when you see them, you see a person who is smart, who's awesome, who's hilarious, who's loyal, who's sexy, who's amazing, who would be the most incredible person to be in a relationship with. But I want you to just imagine that the color of the lens on your glasses, when you look through your belief about them, it's completely different than the color of the lens on their glasses. When day in and day out, all this person can think is, why can't I find somebody? I'll never find somebody. Why does everybody else have somebody? I see all my friends getting approached at the bars. I see my friends getting asked out. Why am I not getting asked out? What you've now learned about the mindset and belief about yourself and the way your filter responds in real time is the more energy you put into a negative narrative like this, it's never going to work out for me. Nobody's ever going to love me. I am unlovable. Everybody else has a date. I'm never going to have a date. The more that mindset and that belief becomes a self-fulfilling situation. Why? Because you're putting so much energy into the negative that the filter in your brain is now going to filter the world in a way to reinforce the negative story. When you walk into a bar, all you're going to see are all the couples. You're not even going to focus on all the other people that are single that you should walk up and talk to. That's the bouncer in your brain aligning with where your energy is. This also explains why you, as the friend, see the opposite. And you can tell the person over and over and over again, you need to calm down. You're amazing. You are going to find an amazing person. It's not that you're not going to meet somebody. You just haven't met the right person yet. It's the exact same situation. But because both of you have different mindsets and beliefs about the situation, you see it through a different lens. And you both believe, by the way, that your belief is the truth. And this simple example highlights how your mindset and how you view the world impacts the filter in your brain. Because the more that this carries on for your friend, the less your friend is going to put themselves out there. Because they're slowly convincing themselves that this is never going to happen, so why bother? And the more that you see them pulling back, the more that your belief is going to become, but you need to, but you're the one holding your back. See, the filter in your brain, it's either going to make the situation worse or, and this is what I want to teach you, it can make it better. But that depends on your ability to get serious about programming it. Because wouldn't you love it if your friend who wanted to meet somebody would still have a positive mindset or a rosy outlook so that they don't just latch on to some loser? Because you would probably do anything to make sure that this friend of yours, this person that you love, would maintain a positive mindset and a rosy outlook. Why do you want them to maintain that? I'll tell you why. Because your mindset dictates your actions. And if you can stay positive, if you can stay optimistic, if you can keep saying to yourself, there is nothing wrong with me. I just haven't met the right person yet. But one of these days, the right person will walk in, and in the meantime, I'm just going to keep being me. If they can get intentional about creating that mindset, a number of things are going to happen. They're not going to become insecure. They're not going to start acting all weird around people. And they are not going to latch on to some loser just because they're starting to convince themselves that they're desperate and this is their only option. Because we both know that's not true. There's 8 billion people in the world. And right now, the right one has not walked into your life, but they will, if you can maintain a positive attitude. And the secret is training the RAS and catching your negative mindset and swapping it out for a more positive one. Because as you're learning, the thoughts that you think dictate the world that you see, the way that you feel, and the actions that you take. Noticing this, that you have a mindset that's holding you back, that's the first step. Second, asking yourself if it's serving you, that's the second step. And the third step, you just got to get serious about making your mind work for you, because you can. If you're breathing, you can change this. Even if your default is negative and pessimistic, you can teach yourself to be optimistic. And I'm going to give you one more example. If you are somebody that loves social media, if you've ever seen the Instagram Explore page or the TikTok Discover page, you'll notice that it changes in real time because those pages are filters and they respond to what it thinks is important to you. So if you click on a puppy, all of a sudden, that Discover page, it's going to be all puppy videos. I went through this phase where I was really into like long nails, and suddenly that Discover page went from puppies to long nails. And it doesn't matter if you accidentally click on Beyonce videos or on some other thing, wedding videos. The algorithm is going to think that that's what you want to see. So suddenly that's all that you see. And it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. You write so much about food, and we've already started talking about it. And in particular, I'm a huge fan of your book, The Blood Sugar Solution, which is where I think you're one of the first people to start talking about the vagus nerve and the power of the vagus nerve, which we talk about on this show constantly. Yeah. And the Ultra Mind Solution is a book.
Oldies but goodies.
Oh, yeah. Oldies but goodies. But listen, everybody, and I'm going to have you explain it. You may have heard that your gut is called the second brain. Yeah. But what you may not know is that during the formation of you as a human being, the same embryonic clump that forms the brain also forms the gut. And they separate, but they stay connected via neurotransmitters. Yeah. So I think about it like almost like goop. Like you break goop in half and it's got those stringy sections and part of it becomes your brain and the second part becomes the gut.
Well, they call it your gut brain or your second brain.
Yes. And that they talk to each other all the time.
Completely, yeah.
And so where I want to start with this is, can you explain the connection between your gut and your gut health and your overall health? And then we're going to get into specific mental health issues that people struggle with and the gut.
Absolutely. You know, what was really amazing to me, Mel, is I began to practice functional medicine. I began to, treat people's guts. I would help their immune system get better. I'd get them on anti-inflammatory diets. And as a side effect, they would report to me that my ADD is better, my depression's gone, my panic attacks are gone, my mood is better, I'm sleeping better. All these things, I'm like, really? What's going on here? And I began to really inquire about this process of how everything below the neck is influencing everything above the neck.
Yes.
So the subtitle of the Ultramind Solution is how to fix your broken brain by fixing your body first. Right? And what's really amazing is the microbiome is this new frontier. In addition to the understanding of the gut brain and the gut nervous system and the brain nervous system and how they're connected, and that's a real thing. There's constant communication. There's more neurotransmitters in your gut than your brain. But what's now happening is the understanding of this sea of bacteria in there that are all speaking to you every minute. And I just had talked to a scientist who was researching a particular microbe in the gut. And it's a big word. It's called Akkermansia. Don't worry about it. It's just one of the bacteria that lives in there.
I already forgot it.
Okay. And what's amazing is as they were fermenting this, growing this bacteria to put in a probiotic, which is very powerful for many things, for regulating metabolism and mood and blood sugar and everything, they discovered that this vat of the byproducts of this bacteria was something called GABA. Now, GABA is a calming neurotransmitter.
Oh.
When people take Valium, that's what it's doing. It's activating the GABA receptors in the brain to calm you down and relax you. So when you think, if you have the right bacteria in your gut, you're producing compounds and neurotransmitters that are going to your brain and making you either relaxed and calm or depressed. There's a woman at Harvard, Uma Naidu, who's studying very actively the microbiome and depression as a way to treat mental illness, fix the gut.
Wow. Okay, I want to have you define a few things for us. So you've used the word inflammation a lot.
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
Well, everybody knows.
Everybody does not know.
You got a sore throat, that's inflammation. You cut your finger, it gets red and pussy, that's inflammation.
Oh.
Right?
No, I'd never thought about it that way.
You sprain your knee, it swells up. That's
that I know.
That's inflammation.
But when you functional medicine doctors throw around the word inflammation, inflammation here, I don't even know what you're talking about.
So we know that inflammation on the outside, what it looks like.
Yes.
Right? That's what I was just referring to.
Yes.
But there's inflammation on the inside.
Oh.
And it's silent inflammation. If your brain's inflamed, it doesn't get red and swollen, but you get depressed and you have ADD and you have personality issues and you can't sleep and you're anxious, right?
Oh.
So we're now understanding that the inflammation, this hidden inflammation, is occurring inside of us, and it's leading to all the diseases of Western civilization: heart disease, cancer, diabetes, dementia. The aging process itself is called inflammaging, which is one of the hallmarks of aging I talk about in Young Forever in my book. And the beautiful thing is that we now know what is driving the inflammation on the inside.
What's causing us to have inflammation on the inside?
Our gut is a big player.
Okay.
70% of our immune system's in our gut. And if we don't eat the right food, if our microbiome isn't the right bugs in there, they're nasty bugs. And we get leaky gut. And that means the body can't filter out the food and proteins from food and the bacteria in there, and you leak them across the intestinal lining, and guess what? Your immune system's right there, and it goes, holy shit, what is all this? And starts creating inflammation. So you get asthma, or you get arthritis, or you get depression, or you get diabetes, or you get dementia, because the gut bacteria and the whole system in there is broken down.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Because I think this is really important for everybody to understand. Let's back up a minute and talk about how your gut is supposed to function. So when it's functioning in the correct way, because I only learned about leaky gut because we had a daughter that struggled with disordered eating.
Yeah.
And she was constantly talking about how she felt fat And I thought, oh my God, we have not only this issue with restriction and her not eating, but we now have body dysmorphia. And we went to see a nutritionist that was a functional, holistic nutritionist. And she came back and said, through the disordered eating, your daughter has destroyed
Her gut.
Yeah. There are no positive bacteria strains.
Yeah.
So the food hits her gut.
Yeah.
And without positive bacteria strains, the food doesn't break down.
Yeah.
And so she does feel bloated.
Get bloated
and then like all of this acidic crap, because the food is not digesting properly because there's no positive bacteria, all this acidic crap leaks through the wall of the gut and then goes through the nervous system and the anxiety spikes. So this was brand new to me.
Yeah.
So can you just explain to everybody, when your gut is in balance, how is it functioning properly? Because I think that'll give everybody the ability to then understand the impact of it not functioning properly.
Well, I mean, you pretty much shouldn't know it's there. It should do its job, right? You shouldn't be bloated, distended. You shouldn't have heartburn. You shouldn't have gas. You should feel fine. You
really? People go through life without all that?
I mean, you can have a little gas, but it's not like, that's kind of a normal thing. But I think, if people are really noticing their gut function,
yes,
something's wrong.
Okay.
And then you just look in the toilet. You should have a perfectly formed log.
Yep.
It just floats a little bit.
Yep.
And that's it. And you should feel the urge to go, and you should go, and it should take a couple minutes, and that's it. And that is not the case for most people in Western civilization. There was a guy named Dennis Burkitt who studied people in Africa, and he was looking at the hunter-gatherers who'd moved to the cities and the differences in the health outcomes in these two different populations between the hunter-gatherers and the city dwellers who were the same genetically. And he found that the city dwellers had lots of heart disease and autoimmune disease and diabetes and all these Western diseases, whereas the hunter-gatherers had none. And what he noticed was that the hunter-gatherer stool weight, their size of their poop, was 2 pounds a day. The city dwellers was 4 ounces.
What?
Yeah, because of all the fiber and all the plant foods they were eating that fed the good bugs in their gut.
Meaning the people that were hunter-gatherers had a better
diet.
Yeah, and I would also imagine, and we're going to get into this, that the stressors of living in the city and the stressors of that kind of life also impacted the body functioning.
Totally. I mean, totally. And there's many pathways through which this works, but the gut or the microbiome is a huge factor. So we know now how to identify imbalances in there. We know how to test for it. We know how to treat it. Not most traditional doctors, but most functional medicine doctors, this is the focus of a lot of the way we help people, is by optimizing their gut function. So that's a big cause of inflammation. The other big cause, and this is also, it was mediated through the gut, which is our diet. Because when we eat, we're not just feeding us. We're feeding the 1,000 critters that live down there. There's probably 10 trillion cells in there that we're feeding.
In your gut.
In your gut. And many cells of your own body. There's probably 100 times as much DNA as your own body. And probably half the metabolites in your blood come from the bacteria, not from you. And they affect everything that's going on. And if they're the bad guys, you're going to feel bad. And if they're the good guys, you're going to feel good. And so when you eat sugar and starch and processed food and artificial sweeteners and thickeners and gums and additives, they just destroy the microbiome. Plus, pesticides and glyphosate and all this stuff just kills it. And so we really have a gut crisis in this country, but we also have the food crisis. And the food crisis is really what's driving it. And I think if people understand how powerful food is, they don't really have to listen to me. I mean, you can listen to this podcast, you can listen to a million other podcasts. Just for 10 days, change your diet and see what happens. Not for a year or 10 years, but 10 days. Anybody can do anything for 10 days. And when you do that, you literally take away all the potential inflammatory foods, all the foods that are causing you to have issues, which is typically gluten, dairy, sugar, processed
So what
foods.
is the 10-day? Just give us simple rules that you want everybody listening to try. This is a dare.
Let's go through a sample menu for a day. But it's basically protein and vegetables, nuts and seeds, and berries. And so
hold on. You said that very fast. Protein,
vegetables, nuts and seeds, and berries. And lots of good fats, olive oil, avocados. Okay. So it's basically, breakfast could be, for example, a couple of eggs with sliced tomatoes and avocado with olive oil on top. Lunch could be a big salad with lots of different veggies and tomatoes. I could throw a can of wild salmon on there.
Yep.
Put in some pumpkin seeds, just lots of good plant
Very
food.
colorful.
Very colorful. And dinner might be, some big piece of fish or chicken or a nice small piece of meat with 3/4 of your plate should be vegetables. So
3/4 of your plate.
So like
everybody.
I'll have like the other night I had like a purple sweet potato. I had some roasted mushrooms. I had, I can totally have like a roasted eggplant, whatever you kind of get excited about. Broccolini, I make cruciferous vegetables every day. These are the broccoli.
What did you
family.
say?
Cruciferous vegetables.
What the hell were
It's
cruciferous?
broccoli, basically. The broccoli
What does
family.
cruciferous mean?
It means broccoli, basically. Broccoli, collards, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, all those.
The fibery crap
cauliflower.
your grandmother served. Is that what you're saying?
It's this family of vegetables. It's a super family.
Got it.
Because it actually detoxes your cells. It helps prevent cancer.
Wow.
It boosts all the detox hormones molecules in your body.
So I want to stop you real quick because you posted something 2 days ago.
I did. What?
That was I'd never really thought about it this way. And it was, you'll probably say it better than me, but it was a very simple post that was like, your cells, your brain cells, like all of this stuff, your skin, that all is continuing to grow. It doesn't just grow out of thin air. It actually is impacted and grows from the raw materials that you give it. And so would you rather have cells that are made from a bag of Doritos?
Exactly.
Or cells made from a salad or a piece of fish? And when you boil it down that way, like, holy cow, what I put in my mouth is what I become.
Yeah, absolutely. You literally become what you eat. I mean, I just had someone on my podcast, the Doctor's Pharmacy, talking about the difference between, for example, pasture-raised bison and bison that were fed corn and feedlot bison, which are still better than
And what
cows.
lab bison?
Feedlot bison, meaning grown on a factory farm.
Okay, got it.
And they measured 15 different 100 metabolites. And what they found was so different among the same genetically identical bison. One had all these incredible molecules that come from plants because it was eating all these grasses. It had
And it
different
was
fatty
outside,
acids.
and
It
it
had
had a
different
happy
vitamins
life.
in it and different
Yep.
minerals in it. And it was just so profound. So you are what you eat, but you also are whichever you're eating it. Right. And the whole thing goes up the chain. And we really have to get how powerful food is. And do an experiment. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Mel. Listen to your own body. Your body's the smartest doctor in the room. It'll tell you what works and what doesn't. And when you stop this or that, you go, well, God, no, wait a minute. My joints don't hurt. Or wait a minute. I'm not having terrible reflux or heartburn anymore. Or I don't have migraines. What happened? Or my mood is better. What's going on? It's what you're eating.
Wow. What are the top things that people should, in this kind of 10-day window, stop eating?
I mean, anything that comes in a package, basically, I mean, if it's canned, sardines or salmon, that's fine. But basically, anything that comes in a package, can, or a box, get rid of it. If it's sugar, no. If sugar-sweetened beverages, no. Alcohol, no. And I sound like I'm a food Nazi, but what I'm saying is get rid of the grains and beans for a short time, because a lot of people have inflammation from that if they have a gut issue. Grains and beans are healthy and they're good for you, but for some people they can be a problem, right? It's just like peanuts are good for people, but if some people
Well, what's the universal one? It's no gluten.
no gluten, no sugar, no dairy, no alcohol, no processed food.
Do you have any fun?
Absolutely. I have so much fun. I have so much fun every day.
I'm just kidding.
My whole life is fun. And I don't feel restricted. I don't starve myself. And the thing is, these foods are addictive, Mel. So people think, I gotta have, sugar. Well, can I have artificial? I know what people are thinking about. They're thinking, oh, Dr. Hyman, can I have artificial sweeteners? Or can I have,
Yes,
stevia?
stevia.
Or can I have,
Is stevia okay?
Everybody's going it through their head. And if you
Yes.
are having this inner dialogue right now, I guarantee you have biological addiction to sugar because you're trying to find a way out. I'm going to stop smoking, but I'm going to vape, or I'm going to chew Nicorette gum. Well, that's not getting rid of your addiction.
Yes.
Right? And I think it's not your fault. And this is probably one of the biggest problems I have with the narrative in America, that we are blaming the person who's overweight for their problem. It's your fault that you're eating too much and not exercising enough, because that's the solution to weight loss. It's all about calories in, calories out. It's all about moderation. And if you can't do it, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
That's just a big, fat lie. And that keeps people feeling ashamed about themselves. It keeps them from being empowered to know what to do. It keeps the food industry free of responsibility. And it's one of the most unfortunate narratives that we have. And then we get this whole body positive movement. And I think it's important for people to feel good about themselves.
Yes.
But the whole idea of healthy at any weight, there are some for sure that are healthy when they're a bigger size. But the truth is, when you look at the biology of it, only 6.8% of Americans are metabolically healthy. Meaning that means do they have normal blood sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure, they're not overweight, and they don't have heart disease. Like that's 6.8% of us. That means 93% of us are somewhere in the spectrum from normal to prediabetes, to diabetes.
And what you're here to say is it's not your fault, because the way that food is manufactured, it is addictive, and it is screwing up your body chemistry, and it is causing like a whole litany of things that you aren't even thinking that my diet and the way that processed food is getting metabolized is causing this inflammation that makes my brain not work right, that impacts focus and energy and mood and sleep and all of these things. And all of your work points to the fact that one of the places that all of us can start is by just doing an experiment for 10 days where you stop the dairy, stop the gluten, stop the sugar, and you eat a colorful meal of whole foods and vegetables. 3/4 of the plate is vegetables and have a protein. There is your homework for 10 days, and report back, everybody, because you've seen over and over and over again that in that small of a window, people have remarkable results.
Yeah. I mean, that's the key, because if people go, this is a long slog, going to take me years, you're not going to want to do it. But if you for a short time reset. It's like, when your computer's just going and some program's hung up and that crazy rainbow ball, which I want to kill, is spinning around, You just restart your computer and then all of a sudden it works. So this is like the restart and has enormous benefits, because for the first time people understand what they're doing impacts how they feel.
Yeah. I almost feel like this is like an oil change. We got to get that nasty ass oil out there and glug, 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 get your gut working right. Can we talk about the impact of the gut with anxiety, and what's your recommendation? If somebody struggles with anxiety, what do they need to do to heal their gut, and how will that impact anxiety?
Well, anxiety can be caused from many things, right? From, life stresses, from trauma, from environmental toxins, from your microbiome, from eating too much sugar. I mean, there's a whole list. So functional medicine is about getting to the root cause.
Yep.
And anxiety is a symptom. It's like saying I have a headache, right? Well, did someone hit you in the head with a hammer? Or do you have a migraine? Are you eating gluten? Did you not sleep enough? Did you have a hangover? Do you have a brain tumor? You have an aneurysm. Like, why do you have a headache?
Right.
So anxiety is just like saying I have a headache, or depression is like saying I have a headache.
Okay.
It doesn't mean anything other than what your symptoms are. The question is, what's the cause? And that is what functional medicine is so good about. And so the gut plays a big role. But I really just start with the simple lifestyle practices. Do a 10-day reset. Do some simple movement, take a walk, do some simple mindfulness practices, do your take 5 or high 5.
Yeah.
I do take 5, which is 5 breaths 5 times a day. It's simple. Like before you eat every time, before you go to bed, take 5 breaths in, slowly in and out for 5 seconds.
How the hell does that help?
It resets your nervous system, because every time you breathe, you move your diaphragm, and your diaphragm is this place where the vagus nerve goes through. The vagus nerve is your relaxation nerve.
Yeah.
So how do you turn on the automatic parts of your nervous system that you don't usually think about, right? I'm going to make my heart beat at 62 beats a minute, or I'm going to make sure I have 14 breaths a minute, or your body just knows what to do. That's your nervous system.
You just need to find the switch and flip it.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. So you can actually use your breath to reset your nervous system and to calm everything down and lower adrenaline, lower cortisol, lower all the stress hormones, and reset your system. But it doesn't take a lot.
I want to just come back to something you said in the very beginning. Over and over and over again, you're proving simple ways that your body is designed to heal itself.
Yeah.
So 5 breaths, deep breaths. Walk us through how you do the 5 breaths.
Just go take a deep breath in to 5 through your nose, and 5 out. Do that 5 times. It's not that hard.
Yeah, but nobody.
I just
does
did it once, and I feel already.
I feel better too. And again, it's proof that if you do the right input, your body response.
Yeah, we're just looking out there for a solution. And I think it's like Dorothy in her ruby red slippers. She was running around Oz trying to find a way to get back to Kansas. And the truth is she had her ruby red slippers the whole time. And all she had to do was click her heels 3 times and get home. You know, I think we all are like Dorothy. We have ruby red slippers. We just don't know we have them and we don't know how to click them. And this is really what my work is about. It's what my book, Young Forever, is focused on. How do we activate our healing systems? Whether you're 25 or 75, you can activate these systems and feel better now and put yourself on the track for a longer, healthier life.
Wow. Let's talk about ADHD. And
What'd you say?
ADHD.
What?
Oh, okay. I even fell for that. That was good. Let's talk about ADHD.
What were we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about ADHD and the gut. How
Yeah.
is healing your gut
Oh God!
helping with ADHD?
I got to tell you a story. because
Tell me a story.
It was one of the books that I wrote, The Ultramind Solution, that had this kid's story, and it was what really got me on this track of thinking about writing this book. It was a 12-year-old kid who had severe ADHD when he was younger. It was in kindergarten on Adderall, and kicked out of kindergarten. I mean, who gets kicked out of kindergarten?
Wow.
And just struggling at 12 years old. His mother was at her wit's end, and some behavior problems and just struggling. And the mother brought him in, and I did a full evaluation, because I don't just say, tell me about your ADHD. I said, tell me about your bowel movements. Tell me about what's happening with this and that and the other thing. And it turned out he had asthma, he had irritable bowel syndrome, he had headaches at night, he had muscle cramps, he had anal itching, which is a clue about something.
Oh, okay.
It's often a sign of yeast issues or
Oh.
yeah. So he had all these problems. And he was on 7 different medications from multiple different
poor kid.
doctors, on asthma medications, on gut medications, on ADD medications, on mood medication. I mean, it was a mess. And his mother brought his handwriting in to show me before, and we can post this on your show notes, before and I started treating him, and then 2 months later after. And all we did was clean up his diet. Kid was living on junk food, never ate a vegetable in his life, massively nutritionally deficient. He was deficient in magnesium, which caused muscle cramps. He was deficient in zinc because he didn't ever eat any pumpkin seeds or vegetables. He had and his immune system was dysregulated. He had also B vitamin deficiencies. He was having gut issues with bad bacteria. He had gluten sensitivity. He had yeast overgrowth. He had a little bit of lead in his system.
Wow.
And all this stuff that was really easy to treat. All I did was basically take out the bad food, put in a whole foods diet, a little bit of an elimination diet we talked about. I gave him basic multivitamins, some fish oil, magnesium, and vitamin D, some probiotics, kind of reset his gut. And the mother brings him back 2 months later, and she says, not only is his ADD gone, but all of his other symptoms are gone. His migraines, his irritable bowel, his asthma, his skin issues, his anal itching, it's all gone. Congestion, sinus issues, all gone. And his handwriting went from totally illegible, these kids with really bad penmanship, to perfectly legible, perfect penmanship. And I didn't send him to a handwriting school. All I did was fix his brain by fixing his body, by fixing his gut.
I'm processing this.
Yeah, it's a lot.
No. I'm processing this because I have a visual to share with you listening to us. And then I want to tell a quick story because I'm starting to feel like ding, 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 ding with our own son. Mm-hmm. So the visual I want to give everybody, because it just hit me, is when somebody has an allergic reaction, like they get stung by a bee or they eat something that they're allergic to and their face turns bright red, or, something swells on their body. That inflammation that you're seeing on the outside is the body reacting to something that it can't process.
Or that it
correct?
doesn't like.
Can you describe what an allergic reaction means medically? Because I then want to tie it to something that I'm now thinking about when it comes to the gut. So what does it mean when you have an allergic reaction? You have allergies.
Yeah. I mean, there's really 2 main kind of allergies.
Okay.
One is a true allergy. So if you eat peanuts,
Right.
your tongue swells up, your lungs shut down, you can't breathe, and you can die.
Correct.
You get anaphylaxis. That's a life-threatening emergency. A bee sting allergy, that's a certain type we call type 1 allergy, which is super fast, super quick, and you can die from it.
EpiPen people.
Yes, EpiPen people, right? Then there's the delayed sensitivity. It's not a true allergy, but it can create sort of low-grade long-term symptoms. Okay. So if you eat bread, you might have brain fog. Is that a true allergy? No. But is it sensitivity? Yes.
Yes.
Right? And I think people don't have, I know, for example, if I eat dairy that's from a regular feedlot cow, I will get congestion and snotty immediately, and I'll probably get pimples the next day.
Yep.
But if I have, for example, sheep or goat products that are from regenerative sheep that have A2 casein, which is non-inflammatory, then I don't, right? So it's really not so much about the type 1 we're so much worried about. It's all these other types of food reactions that are slow and delayed and create this low-grade inflammation that creates all these symptoms for people.
Yes. So I wanted to bring that visual in for everybody because I think it's really helpful. You know, when for me personally, I don't know if it's the dyslexia. I just don't know if it's because I'm a visual learner. I love to have something I can think about visually to help me process large amounts of information. And so when I think about my husband, for example, who's allergic to bees, he has an EpiPen. I wish he would carry it around a little bit more. But when he gets stung with a bee, it's not life-threatening, but it's scary.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me a couple of years ago, I wonder if like these sensitivities and these allergies that people have to food that may not cause swelling or redness in your face or breakouts or whatever that you can't see, I wonder if all of this is screwing up the way that our body is able to function.
Absolutely.
And it interferes with your body's way to function. And so when you think about it like those kind of type 1 ones that, and you just explained it, like if you have a sensitivity to wheat or your body just can't handle the big company manufactured foods because of the chemicals and the dyes and the crap that are in it, it is causing your whole body to have almost like this reaction,
smoldering inflammation.
this smoldering inflammation, just like a bee sting causes Chris's face to blow up. And so when you think about it that way, it makes so much sense to go, holy cow. If you just simply were to switch your diet from all this processed crap, grab and go, and you were to put on your plate a little bit of protein and 3/4 vegetables, it would probably calm your body down and your thoughts down. And here's what I'm going, holy fuck, this is crazy. Because our son, exactly what you're talking about, Oakley in 4th grade was diagnosed with severe dyslexia. The kid could not read. He was so like blah, bitty, blah, bitty, blah, that he literally snowed everybody for about a year. And then they got to the point where you can't just raise your hand first and make something up. And that makes people think that you read it. And the math problems are getting harder. So you can't. So the gig was up. Cannot read. It looked, honest to God, like he was writing with his feet. His dysgraphia was so bad.
Exactly.
He could not sit still. So we pull him out of public school. We put him in the Carroll School outside of Boston. Fortunate enough to get him in there only about language-based learning. And they immediately medicate him for ADHD. He hated the meds. But it was the only way he could sit still in class. Fast forward to about 8th grade. He starts advocating for himself. I'm not eating meds. I'm not taking these meds. I'm not taking these meds. I'm not taking these meds. We're like, fine. But if we get a report from school that you are bouncing around the classroom and you can't sit still, we're going to have to find a different solution. This school happened to have a cafeteria where all the kids ate, and it had a whole like food healthy options. Like there were no unhealthy options. There was the salad bar, there was the homemade soup, there was a protein. He gets into 9th grade. When I tell you this kid is a totally different person. His handwriting is different. That's what made me think of this. His ability to focus is different. He has not been on meds now for 3 years. You would not know that this kid had severe dyslexia. No. He is just, I don't even know who he is. It's like destroying it in school. He is present. And he eats vegetables. Like he has a totally different diet. Like I'm sitting here going, holy shit, like the kid used to eat mac and cheese.
Oh yeah.
Chicken nuggets.
That'll do it.
Don't put a vegetable on my plate.
That'll do it. It's really true. And it's like,
and I'm just processing this because I'm like, I think this is a major part of why he is transformed.
And Mel, it's not just ADD. Everything that goes on in our brain above our neck is governed in the same way. We may not have such severe symptoms. We may not have asthma. We may not have severe ADD, but we may have fatigue or brain fog or just depression or anxiety.
Well, let's talk about depression. Right? So what are the 5 best foods that you can eat for brain health?
So I have them almost every day. Salmon, especially wild salmon for the omega-3 fatty acids, berries, but they have to be organic. That's very important. So I'm a huge fan of blueberries. I often call them brain berries, but it's critical that they're organic. So people take blueberry extract. Actually, has been shown to improve memory.
Okay.
Nuts and seeds. People who eat nuts and seeds on a regular basis have a lower incidence of depression and dementia. Leafy greens for the fiber and the magnesium, but my favorite one is raw cacao, or the main ingredient in chocolate. I don't say chocolate because chocolate's filled with sugar and dairy and a lot of things that are really bad for you. But as a bonus, I want you to try this. I make brain healthy hot chocolate virtually every day.
How do you make it?
And so I get raw cacao. So for each serving, say the serving's like 12 ounces, a heaping teaspoon of raw cacao, unsweetened organic almond milk. And you could do it with other nut milks, but I like almond milk. And there's a company called Sweet Leaf that makes liquid chocolate stevia. And so I heat up the milk, I mix in the raw cacao, I put a couple of dropperfuls of chocolate stevia and put it in a blender. It tastes amazing. And it's part of the ritual I have for happiness in my life and this is a very important point. I only eat things I love that love me back. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in a bad relationship. I have. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm like married to my best friend, and I'm damn sure not doing it with food. I am not going to be in, because people go, I love Rocky Road ice cream. Well, it beats you up. Or I love beer. Well, it shrinks your brain. And I'm like, no. Do I love it like I love my brain healthy hot chocolate? And it loves me back. So whatever you eat or whatever you do, I mean, we're in a relationship with what we eat and what we do. And is it a mutually positive relationship or is it destructive?
See, I love that there was an ambulance driving by in the background as my and our brain doctor were telling us to make hot chocolate. That was just a beautiful thing. I think that was the universe telling us all, we need to have our brain healthy cacao with the stevia chocolate sweetener. I'm actually going to make one when we are done with this. What can we do to improve our memory, Dr. Amen?
Well, improve your brain. It's like the most important thing. It's 50%. I mean, think about this, Mel. 50% of people 85 and older will be diagnosed with dementia. Like those are odds I am not okay with. And if you want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it, you have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. And I know we don't have time to go in it, but the mnemonic I have is bright mind. So for example, maybe the most important thing, B, is for blood flow. Whatever you can do to increase blood flow to your brain, you're going to be happier, your memory is going to be better, and you're going to be more sexual. Because whatever is good for your brain, good for your heart, is good for your genitals.
So is that the brisk walking?
So you want to avoid things that steal blood flow, caffeine, nicotine, being sedentary, having any form of heart disease. And then you want to do things that enhance blood flow. So walking, raw cacao, beets, the supplement ginkgo. These things all increase blood flow. Cinnamon, oregano.
Wow. Okay. I want to hear the R though. Bright mind. I know that that there's 11, but give me 2 or 3 of them.
R is retirement and aging. When you stop learning, your brain starts dying. So constantly engage in new learning. The I is inflammation. But the one maybe to talk about more is the T. It's toxins. And we live in a toxic society, right? Here I am in Florida. I just talked about all the fish off the coast in Florida. On average, they have 7 pharmaceuticals in their tissues. But just the products you put on your body, I have all of my patients download the app Think Dirty. It allows you to scan all of your personal products, and it'll tell you on a scale of 1 to 10 how quickly they're killing you.
Oh my God.
We saw this year that the FDA took off a number of sunscreens off the market because they were associated with cancer. How horrifying is that, right? You're thinking you're protecting yourself from cancer. The toxic products are giving you cancer. So Think Dirty, but also we have to stop thinking of alcohol as a health food. It's not, it's toxic to your brain. Or marijuana is innocuous. It's not, it damages your brain. And, you know, it's these little lies in our society that is really promoting the disease we are just flooded with.
So you've been a psychiatrist for 40 years. What are 5 things you'd never do because it's bad for your mental health and your brain health?
Well, I never believe every stupid thing I think. And I think that's really important to know, you know, I'm going to get these crazy, stupid, awful thoughts, and I know how to manage and dismiss them. I would never say everything I think. Some people come to me and say, oh, Dr. Amen, I'm brutally honest. And I'm like, well, that's usually not helpful. Relationships require not. I would never purposefully stay up late and screw up my sleep. I would never eat everything I want. And I would never take medicine just based on symptom clusters. Like, you know, I'm depressed, so take an antidepressant. So I think that's all insane. I always want to look at the brain and then target whatever treatment I need to how somebody's brain's functioning.
Yeah, the one thing I forgot to ask you, because, you know, right now as you and I are talking, we've just turned the clocks back. But this time of year, when it gets darker earlier and it's colder, I notice like my mood drops and I feel like sad. What do you do, whether it's because of the time of year or because of chronic stress, you feel this sort of languishing or heaviness set in? What are 3 things that you would recommend that somebody do to boost their mood?
So morning bright light, I think that can be really helpful. So, you know, a bright light therapy lamp for 20 or 30 minutes in the morning, exercise, don't overdo the caffeine. And it's really important, we haven't talked about this yet, turn off blue light when the sun goes down. So
what is blue light?
Constantly flooded with blue light. And in the morning, it's fine, but after dark, it's not, because it decreases the production of melatonin. So you get it from your laptop, or you get it from your phone, or you get it from whatever gadgets you might be looking at. And so after dark, either put blue light blockers on your gadgets or just turn them off and go read a book.
Okay, great. And, you know, I also didn't ask you this. How do you know if your dopamine levels are low?
If you're tired, if you're unmotivated, if you can't concentrate, and you find yourself more impulsive than is good for you.
And finally, let's bottom line, because you are the master at elite brain training. If you could leave everyone with just one thing
that you would like them to start doing today to create better brain health, what would it be?
It's that mother tiny habit. It's whenever you come to a decision point in your day, just ask yourself, am what I'm doing good for my brain or bad for it? And if you can answer that with information and love, I mean, I'm serious about this, love of yourself, love of your family, love of the reason you're on earth, you're going to start making good decisions for your brain, and then everything in your life will be better.
Dr. Amen, you're so awesome.
For people that are brand new to the idea of healing, of trauma, of nervous system dysregulation, by asking you a question. Do you believe that the majority of breakdowns or mental health issues that we face as adults go back to the issue of stress, trauma, hypervigilance that you experienced during childhood?
I absolutely. And that also is to include, however, the structural brain neurological changes. This is where we can, I think, as a field, get caught in a little bit of the chicken or the egg, because again, because stress does imprint on us biologically, genetically, a lot of us do then see or born with even structural changes, right, in our brain, imbalances in neurotransmitters. Again, the field is still, the psychology field that is, and the medical field, if I'm being perfectly honest, is still learning, is still evolving, is still growing. And it took until, within the past decade for us to realize that one of the number one things, I'm sure maybe some listeners have heard of, neurotransmitters, right? This idea that when you're diagnosed with a mental illness, whatever it might be, your neurotransmitters are off. A hormone in your body that impacts our mood. While that is absolutely part of the story, for a very long time, we located the neurotransmitter production and maintenance, right, in our brain. And now we understand that it isn't just our brain that creates and produces and uses neurotransmitters. It is our gut, right? So now we have another whole part of the body that is impacted by decisions that we're making, food we're eating, pollutants that are in, toxins that are in the food that we're eating, habits around eating the food that, again, were passed through generations. So to simply answer your question, we can't localize it to just one exact factor, in my opinion, which is why I'm such a proponent. And I've shifted the way that I work and think and practice and teach into a more holistic model, because it's all of it. And the reality of it is there are structural changes. There are imbalances in our nervous system. There's dysregulation in our nervous system and imbalances in our neurotransmitter, I should say, that are creating then the symptoms that are, resulting in diagnoses. And my hope is to take the whole picture into account and to give people the opportunity to explore the deeper underlying causes, because that's the area where we can begin to intervene by making new choices, by creating a different internal environment for ourselves, by creating a different external environment for us to live into, can then help us resolve some of those longstanding symptoms.
So I'm going to give you a personal example, okay? Because I think it will help people start to process where we're going to go with this conversation by thinking about this example. And I will be the emotionally immature parent in the example, okay? So we have a daughter who has just started to talk openly about the fact that she feels very stuck in life. In her words, that she does not feel alive, that there are very few experiences happening in her day-to-day life where she feels truly alive. And the other thing, and this is sort of a little joke, is that we say, we love you because you don't take yourself that seriously. She's really, really funny, but you take everything else so seriously. So she is the typical hypervigilant, on top of everything, stressed out, got to get everything right. And when I apply your work to this situation, knowing that she's talking to a therapist, I say that as her mother, when she was born, I had severe postpartum depression. I had an incredibly traumatic birth, and I was, in your words, emotionally immature, which means I personally, as a new mom and just as a human being at the age of 29 or 30, I could not handle my emotions. I screamed, I vented, I, was very unpredictable. And on top of it, for the first 8 weeks of her life, because the postpartum depression was so severe, Dr. Nicole, and I was so heavily medicated because it was a dangerous situation psychologically and physically for me, I couldn't take care of her. And she has, now that she's an adult and in therapy, and she just did, some really interesting guided psychedelic therapies, has had now a memory of that period of her life as an infant and really being in distress, wanting me to come. And just remembering my husband coming and one of our close friends that would sit with me while my husband was at work while I was very sick. And she also has had this sort of experience in therapy of realizing that I really wanted to be there. But that core experience very much cemented a kind of experience of the world for her. And I, of course, was just passing down the lineage of stressed out, volatile, intense, not that warm kind of behavior that I grew up around. When I look all the way through my lineage of, immigrant working in coal mines, domestic servants, farmers, like work, hard work. And I look at her, and as, she's talking about a job and she's talking about doing this, and I'm thinking, actually, this is about you healing. I hate to say it this way, so please correct me, but I feel like the damage I fucking did to you because I didn't know any better.
Yeah, I want to commend a couple things here, Mel. First, your honesty in sharing these experiences, and also the environment that you've since created. It sounds like, to the extent that your daughter is able to, right, begin to share these realities, these conscious awarenesses that she's having, because that is a gift, to be able to communicate honestly with those closest to us, especially those that might have been a participant in whatever the circumstances that we lived in our past, in our earliest life. That is such a gift, because few families, I think, have at any time. And I know my family in particular, now we're just recently starting to be able to share things with each other in honesty, share what our different realities, I have two other siblings, are, and allow that to be the case. So that is absolutely something to celebrate. And the reality of it is, when we don't have the resources to take care of ourselves, and when we're stuck in this dysregulation that we're talking about in our nervous system, we're stuck in a survival mode in and of itself of our own. And so my heart, I actually felt myself welling up in emotion hearing you share that story, for not only your daughter, for you as well. Like you were sharing the awareness that she had of you wanting, right, to be present. And I think postpartum depression is one of those rarely talked about experiences that is so, I think a lot of times it's highlighted on how it is for the child of that disconnection, though, how painful it is for the parent who in their heart, wants to be. And I think this is the case with all of us, as with all parents, is there's a lot of well-meaning, well-intentioned individuals that are of two minds within themselves, if they're even aware of it or not, of wanting to show up in whatever way, in a tune, to connect it in a loving way, oftentimes wanting to reverse patterns that they know didn't serve them from their own childhood, yet not being able to, because the reality, and I use the term survival mode to really highlight the reality that when we're in survival mode, and this is all just driven by our nervous system, so it's not anything logical, our survival is our priority, which means that a child, a loved one, a partner, right, isn't where our attention and our resources need to be allocated at that moment. It's quite literally in us getting through the next few moments of life. And this might sound dire, which is why, again, I'm just offering that this is all driven by our ability to survive, by our evolution as a human. So this is again where we are of two minds, where we might desperately want to show up, to connect, to be attuned to our child, and our body might not be prioritizing that child at all. It might be prioritizing us and our survival and us making it through the next moment, however difficult that moment is. And so again, I just want to, thank you for your honesty in shining the light on a topic as this, because I've spoken and worked with in my past practice a lot of women who were so shameful about the experience of having, that deep rooted depression, even of, this is another controversial, I think, thing to admit, of maybe being of two minds about how it is to actually be a mother. Right? There might be a very well-intentioned part that does want to show up and does want to be in care of a child. And the reality of needing to be in care of someone else for 24 hours a day is very difficult. It's very challenging. And there might be then conflicts in and of itself. So again, I want to commend you for your honesty. And I want to commend the environment that's being created in your home where these things can be talked about. Because I think the more we're able to, again, be non-judgmentally honest with ourselves and with other people, to relieve ourselves, like you're even sharing. When I look back in time, I see the same patterns, just like I experienced with my mom. When I look back at her family experience, it's cold, it's disconnection. She literally had a father who came home from work. He was the financial support of the household, put up his newspaper, and quite literally ignored the children. So it's not surprising that the mother then emotionally that I, was born into didn't have the tools to emotionally connect, no matter how much she wanted to do different, and knew that that was a painful experience for herself. She was locked in her own survival mode and was just simply unable to.
Yeah, I agree. And and in sharing the story, it actually is somewhat liberating for me, because I don't want to pass down that generational cycle or trauma of being in survival mode and having a conflicted relationship with giving and receiving love. And what I can so profoundly see is that since I'm catching this in myself at 47, and I'm still working on it, my kids probably, I'd say at least 6 or 7 times a week go, "Watch your tone, Mom. Watch your tone of voice." For me is when my emotional immaturity kicks in, when my inability to tolerate something. Mel Robbins is now her 8-year-old self because her tone of voice goes nasty, just like I heard in my household the tone of voice in the adults around me go nasty when I was 8 years old. And so I want to make it very clear as a takeaway for people that if you are resonating with this idea of, being in breakdown or feeling stuck or feeling disconnected in your adult life, first of all, we all go through it. If not a couple times, right? A couple big breakdowns everyone goes through. So it's normal, but it's not, it's good news, because you're awakening that your current way of living on autopilot or being shut down, or in the words of my daughter, not feeling alive, that's not how you're wired or meant to live. And so this moment of consciousness is an opportunity. And I will also highlight that through my own example, the first place I want you to look is I want you to look at Dr. Nicole's work, because what she's saying is the first place to look is in your childhood, and how you have gotten to a point as an adult where your ability to tolerate discomfort emotionally is no longer serving the kind of life you want to live. And I'm willing to say, through experiences I did not mean to create for my daughter, I taught her hyper vigilance. Like, she had to become the adult. I wasn't even able to be present. And I feel terrible about that. Do I wish I could go back and wave a magic wand? Absolutely. And I know for both of us, there's this huge opening present for both of our healing, not to mention our ability to have a mature, loving relationship on our own terms versus being in a relationship that is driven by the patterns of our lineage and what we were taught when we were children. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I'm shaking my head very ravenously over here because, I think it's important for me to state as well is I still have moments where for me, my reactivity comes out as passive aggressive, snarky, underhanded comments where I'm not able to directly say it is how I feel to another person. Again, because without that attunement in childhood, without that safety, I learned the act of suppressing it, of going away on my spaceship and not ever saying what was really wrong. I also have a habit of disconnecting from my loved ones, my relationships, of literally going and walling myself off in my bedroom and then holding them responsible for not coming in and not being connected and not supporting me when I need it. And I like to use this visual of it. It's as if I have my hand held out in front of me and I'm demanding, sometimes even with daggers on the end of it, and then demanding someone come and give me a hug. And again, all of this for me, you said something really beautiful that I think is important to touch on. All of this goes back to, for me, the inability to be emotionally connected, to give and receive love in my childhood. And as counterintuitive as that sounds, especially for all of us in relationship, many of us, few of us, I should say, in adulthood, actually have had that lived experience of giving and receiving love for being who we are, for just sharing how it is for us, what we think, what we feel with another individual. So while we might, and this was so much, of my life for so long, all I desperately wanted was to be connected. I would leave partners because you weren't able to connect with me. I didn't feel close to you. And it took until, the awakening that began in my 30s, my early 30s, because it was several years of time before I was able to see myself as holding those daggers out, see all of the ways I was disconnected from my own authentic emotions, not sharing them with other people. So how am I going to be deeply and authentically known to someone else? I never gave anyone the opportunity because for me, it felt so scary, so vulnerable, so threatening that having those daggers out and blaming you for not coming closer was that safe zone. It was just a replication of that early experience again that was created in my household with all of my family members, but namely around my own mom who wasn't equipped, didn't understand, probably had a deep-rooted desire, like I was sharing earlier, to be emotionally connected, but didn't know how herself.
Yeah. I mean, we only can do what we've been trained to do until we wake the hell up and heal ourselves and teach ourselves to do something different. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.